Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting video in our series on basic networking. We're going to cover access control lists in this video, or ACLs. This is a pretty difficult topic. I definitely struggle with it. I know a lot of you probably will if you're in this video course. But we're going to try and make it as simple as possible and help clear up anything that might be confusing you about this topic. So hopping in here, there's two different types of access control lists, standard and extended. Standard is going to work with the source IP only, while extended will work with the source and destination IPs, ports, and more. Generally, you'd place a standard or less specific ACL closest to the destination. This avoids dropping traffic prematurely. And extended ACLs, or more specific ones, would be placed closest to the source to reduce unnecessary network traffic. Be careful when you're specifying source ports in extended ACLs, because many devices pick a free port at random for each connection, and this could cause you to unnecessarily drop traffic that you weren't intending to drop. So for each type of ACL, you can have named or numbered specification. Named ACLs are going to be easier to add or remove entries from. Numbered ACLs are going to go 1 to 99 for standard and 100 to 199 for extended. And there's also a range higher up that you can look into on your own. So removing entries from a numbered ACL can be difficult. It basically involves just deleting the entire access control list and recreating it. Whereas with named ACLs, you can generally go into them and delete just one statement out of it and then recreate that statement. You're going to apply ACLs to an interface with a direction of travel, either in or out. In is going to mean the traffic will be analyzed and dropped before going through routing, and out is going to mean the traffic will be analyzed and dropped after it's been routed. All ACLs are going to have an implicit deny. This is something that you would also learn if you studied firewalls. Basically, this means that if you decide to make an ACL and allow a certain network, then anything that's not in that ACL will be dropped by default. So you've got to be very careful if you decide to put an ACL on an interface that you specify everything that you intend to cross that interface so that you don't accidentally drop something. Now ACLs, like OSPF, are going to use something called a wildcard mask to know which addresses to match on. In brief review, to calculate your wildcard mask, you're just going to take the all 255s and subtract your subnet mask from it. A wildcard, for instance, of 0.0.0.7 would specify the next 8 addresses in this network right here, or 10.10.10.129 to 10.10.10.135. So we do have a list of new commands for this section. We'll go ahead and run through those. The first one is access-list followed by a number, and then either a permit or deny, then your source address, and then your wildcard mask. This is going to create a numbered access list, depending on the number actually. It could be standard or extended, or it can add an entry to an existing list with the same number. The next command, IP access-list, followed by standard or extended, and then a name, is going to create a named access list and enter access list configuration mode. Once you're in that configuration mode, you can give a line number or a list number for the specific entry, then permit or deny. You can give it a protocol, then a source address with a wildcard mask, a destination address with a wildcard mask. You can say equal or not equal and add a port number if you like, and that'll add an entry to that extended named access list. Once you go into your interface to apply an ACL, you can issue the command IP access-group followed by the number of the access control list or the name that you wish to apply to it, and then a direction of in or out. A command to see our access control lists on the device is show access-lists. And then if we ran the show run with a pipe begin interface, that'll show us the running config starting with the first occurrence of the word interface, and that can be useful to see which ACLs are applied to which interfaces. Now when we're dealing with extended ACLs, you might want to specify a port number. So over here I've given a list of commonly used ports. It's not extensive, there are a lot more ports than this. But some that we might be using in this lab or in this course would include HTTP, which is port 80, HTTPS, which is port 43. Moving on, we can hop down here into some examples. Go ahead and open up our practice router over here. Move them out of the way so we can see these commands. Go ahead and hop into global configuration mode. And our first example is to create a numbered standard access list. So if we enter the command access list 1 permit 192.168.0.0 with a wildcard mask of 0.0.0.255, enter, that's going to create a standard ACL, and that's going to allow any device from the 192.168.0.0 network to pass if we apply it to an interface. The next example is for a numbered extended ACL. This would go something like access list 101, because now we're in the extended number range. We could go permit, follow it by a protocol such as TCP, and then give it 192.168.0.0 with that same wildcard mask. And then we have to specify a destination address because this is an extended ACL. So that destination address may be 10.10.0.0, or sorry, 10.10.10.0 and 0.0.0.255. And we'll say equal to 80, so anything on port 80, and we'll enter. And that access control list is essentially going to allow anybody from the 192.168 network that's going to the 10.10.10 network over HTTP to pass. Our next example would be for a numbered or a named standard access control list. So now instead of just access list, we're going to say IP access list. And then we're going to say standard. And then we're going to go ahead and call it ACL standard. And you see that put us into standard ACL configuration mode. In here we can go ahead and specify a couple of statements for this ACL. We could give the first one a number of 25. We could say that one is to permit the host 10.10.10.2. Then we could give the next one 35 and say permit 20.20.20.0 0.0.0.255. So essentially what we've just done there is we've created a named standard ACL and we've added two entries to it. The first one is going to allow the device with 10.10.10.2 IP address to pass, and the second one is going to allow any device from the network 20.20.20.0 to pass. Our final example is going to be to create a named extended ACL. So if we go back out to global configuration mode, just like when we wanted to do a named standard, instead of just access list, we'll say IP access list. We'll go ahead and say extended, and then we'll call this one ACL extended. Now we've entered extended ACL configuration mode. We can go ahead and give this a few statements. We'll just give them number 10 for the first one, and that'll be to permit over TCP 192.168.0.0.0.7 to a host with the IP address of 10.10.10.5 on port 80. We'll enter. Then our next statement, 20, permit IP 20.20.20.0 of 0.0.0.255 to any destination. We'll hit enter. So that created an extended named ACL. The first one is going to allow those first 8 IPs in the 192.168 network to access the single device 10.10.10.5 on port 80. And the second one would allow any device in the 20.20.20 network to pass to any destination. So that was our brief overview of access control lists. I hope that you were able to understand this video and you got a little bit out of it. I hope it answered any questions you might have had about this. If not, definitely stick around for the next video where we'll hop into the lab. And if you haven't already, go down to the link in the video description below and download this content for your notes, and so that you can practice that lab on your own. So we'll see you in the next video.